Hi, my name is Emmanuel. Welcome to a demo of the Augur Security Investigate feature. Today we're going to be starting with some IOCs that were given to us by CERT-UA. CERT-UA, or the Computer Emergency Response Team for Ukraine, graciously gave Augur some IOCs relating to an ongoing campaign in Eastern Europe and Ukraine. Augur has been tracking this campaign more recently as it stepped up in campaign activity, suspected to be APT28 or Fancy Bear. Now we're going to start off by going to the investigate page. From here, Augur allows you to search through actor, malware, or even IOC information, but we want to first start off with a bulk search. Now I've already copied these IOCs over, so I first want to see the top level breakdown that Augur gives you. Now clearly we can pivot to any one of these different pages, but I want to start off with the first two highest infection points. I also see some repeat ASNs. This indicates to me that not only was this infrastructure reused, but it does have ties to Russian organizations, as this is a known bulletproof host, Alex host, that has been identified by Augur Security. I can also check out the augured on dates to see that this probably has a large historical base for malicious infrastructure activity alongside these repeat profiles as well. Now, lastly, before I dive into the breakdown, I also want to check the last seen date. Some of these dates are very recent, as well as some just last week. This leads me to believe that this is an ongoing or very recent campaign relating to APT28 or Russian threat operators. I want to first start off by diving into the more malicious, more high infection rate IOC. Now, clicking into the IP page, we can see a quick Augur breakdown, augured on September 21st, 2022, as well as the CIDR range to block. You can also check out the exact calendar breakdown. Now, this IOC has a history of spam behavior, as well as some malicious and scanner activity. I can also see the augured on date, essentially protecting me 4 years retroactively. Scrolling down to the threat associations, I can see this is tied to the greater APT28 threat cluster. So Facey and Sednet, other aliases tied to that threat cluster and listed as malicious reinforce this belief. I also see Alex Host, aka ASN 2019. This is a known malicious host and bulletproof hosting provider favored by APT28. I can also see registration information as well as confirmation that this is a hosting provider. Now, instead of my network information, I want to examine Augur Intel. I want to go through the reported feeds and see the confirmation that this IOC was recently used in cyber attack against Ukraine and the EU, exploiting the Microsoft 2026 zero day in Office products. This is also reported by CERT-UA. I can check other campaign breakdowns and see that this IOC was again tied to APT28 or Fancy Bear, reported again, Operation Newsploit APT28, and additional follow-on reporting from Microsoft and Google Threat Intelligence. Now, instead of delving more into this, I can examine the associations specifically relating to malware hashes that are clearly listed as malicious. I can also examine URLs and emails, but I'm actually more concerned with passive DNS. These historical dates lead me to believe that this is long-standing malicious infrastructure and not just something that was stood up on a whim or in a day or two. This is malicious infrastructure that's existed for years and has been frequently reused and repurposed in APT28 or suspected Russian threat operator campaigns. Now, instead of diving deeper into these pivot points, I actually want to scroll back up and examine the malicious profile attached to it. Now I can see that we have a whole host of Augur insights, some dating all the way back to 2021. This leads me to believe that there's a lot of malicious infrastructure activity related to it. Scroll down further, I can actually see that a majority of the ASNs tied to this profile again go back to Alex Host, our bulletproof hosting provider. This is only strengthening the initial hypothesis of an ongoing campaign. Now, if we want to scroll down, we can examine specific mine network events. This is sort of the central point for your SOC operations and your defenders. Here they can monitor incoming and outgoing connections, specifically this connection that I'm worried about. 35 allowed, 58 blocked to a known source of malicious and spam activity. I can flag that for later investigation, but also I want to check out outgoing as well. Here, I can do the same exact breakdown and flag malicious connections for review later or for follow-up by my SOC analysts. And now to pivot, we can examine our Augur intel. Here we clearly see APT-28 and UAC-50, two groups tied to aggressive Ukrainian operations against hydrological sites, infrastructure, and critical industries. Now we can also see a few different threat actors associated, APT-30, APT-9. While this doesn't lead me to believe the current campaign is of the Chinese government, it does indicate that this infrastructure was previously used in the past for additional cyber operations or was used as malicious hosting infra. Now we can dive into the APT-28 page. Here we're given the full scale breakdown. Not only do we have a description and alias, but we have decades worth of historical Augur insights, some dating all the way back to 2012, 2013. We also track countries that are targeted as well as country of actor origin. Here we get a breakdown of malwares used, tools, and CVEs to compare it to the current advisory bulletin, see if any of these were used either against my organization or against our target, Ukraine. Not only can we see targeted industries and motive, I'm more concerned with the shared infrastructure. Here, this allows us to view hosting infrastructure shared across a wide variety of threat actors. Not only that, but I can examine certain infrastructure like OVH, another known bulletproof hosting provider, and flag it for review and blocking, as no malicious infrastructure should ever touch your organization's perimeter. You can also scroll down again to Augur Intel and see IOC breakdown by country, as well as confirmed IOCs and confirmed malicious ASNs. Again, we can flag these for SOC review and analysis to see if they should be blocked from ever reaching our perimeter. We can also examine infrastructure artifacts like TLDs, name servers, and registrars. This allows me to see whether any of these infrastructure artifacts reappear in the CERT UA advisory bulletin. I can also examine MITRE ATT&CK for specific TTPs used and tracked by Augur. I can compare them to the TTPs used by CERT UA's advisory and notice spear phishing service and spear phishing link again present, as well as masquerading, match legitimate resource name or location, TTPs already verified to APT-28. This only strengthens the initial hypothesis that APT-28 is engaging against an active campaign of phishing against Ukraine and critical infrastructure across the EU. Now, I can also see malicious associations tied to file hashes throughout the years. Again, some of these very recent, meaning the campaign is probably ongoing, but instead I want to follow up with the Jugget malware, a malware that was announced in this recent campaign. Now on the malware page, not only do we get our own description, but we get a decade's worth of Augur insights as well. All this infrastructure I can re-examine within my own SOC to see if this needs surgical blocking or if it needs a blanket block altogether. We also have our actor ties as well and our shared infrastructure. We can see again OVH, a known malicious bulletproof host appears, as well as Bell Cloud and Celeste, shared by Russia and China for malicious cyber operations. We can also examine my network or Augur Intel. Not only do we have the same IOC breakdown per region, we also get what we were looking for, our malicious file hashes, which we can, of course, relate back to the CERT UA advisory and compare to see if any of these were used in the ongoing campaign. Okay, that about wraps it up for this Augur feature demo video. Thank you for joining us in the Augur exploration series. We'll see you in the next feature demo video. Thank you.